Good afternoon. All right. Let's see. I think everything is up and good to go for our Blackboard and the assignments and so forth. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Well, let's get Chapter 9 finished up today. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, after this week we have 4, I think, of lecture and 1 of for the final week. Okay. So we should have plenty of time to get 10, 11, and 12 covered. Okay, so in Chapter 9, we've been talking about the joints of the body, these different articulations. We've talked about what some of the structure is of those articulations, like fibrous, for example. And we mentioned about whether they have a joint capsule, because if they do, that means there's going to be fluid that's present. And then we left off talking about different types of movement that can be found at these articulations throughout the body. So we had, movements like gliding. We had movements that could go in one angle. We had movements that could move in many different areas of an axis. And so when we talk about this movement that can occur at these joints of the body, a term that goes along with the movement for that joint is range of motion. Range of motion is a term that if you're going to come across it, okay? Depending on which field you decide to go in, and I had a student email me, and when I checked the email today, I guess it was 2 years ago, he was in my class, he got accepted to physical therapy school. And I was like, yay, that's awesome. And I said, be sure to keep me posted and let me know where you go to work at, because by then I'm probably going to need physical therapy. And so, it was like, yay. And range of motion is something they'll hear a lot about, okay? They'll hear a lot about range of motion. But that doesn't mean that others won't either, okay? Say you go to work in an orthopedics office, okay? You'll hear range of motion there. If you go to work in a hospital, there will be range of motion issues that you come across. This is a term that is letting us know what is the mobility at that joint. Each joint of the body has a given amount of range of motion. Your knees, your elbows, your shoulders, your fingers, okay? There is a norm that the movement should fall into. If it doesn't fall into that norm, it's very clinically significant. Why? Okay, something is going on with the joint. It could be tendons, it could be ligaments, it could be the bone, it could be the tissues that are found at that joint. There's a lot of reasons. When we talk about range of motion, we have 2 types. We have what's called active and passive. Active means what is actually occurring because of a muscle contraction, okay? If I'm going to have range of motion to do this, go to do this, go to do this, go to do this, okay? There's a range of motion that should be taking place for every single movement I make. But let's say that I've damaged this. All right? And I get, you know, like, I'm right-handed, okay, so I got some problems here. And I'm like, okay, can't quite get there. I'm going to have to do this to maybe help me get this. I have now placed an outside force on that movement. That's passive. Does that make sense? Okay? And the best example I can always give is knee surgery, because that happened personally to me. And I'll never forget, had some knee surgery, 3 days later, started the physical therapy, go to the physical therapist, they set you on this table, and you've got your legs swinging off of the table. And what's the first thing they did to me? They took my leg, did this like if this was my leg hanging off the table, took my leg that had the surgery and went, oh. Yes, that's what they did. They continued to do that every single time I went to the physical therapy. And talk about not a happy camper when you leave. You're not a happy camper when you leave physical therapy, okay? Not for a long time. But range of motion, we find that there are lots of things that can affect it. Well, what is the shape of those articulating bones? Are they flat? Are they cupped? What kind of connections do they have? Is there any cartilage present? If so, what does it look like? Think about the menisci of the knees, for example. What is the strength and location of ligaments and tendons? Now, with sports players, you often hear a lot of times that they tore this or that ligament, right? Okay? ACL. All right? Anybody know what that means? The anterior cruciate ligament. Where is that? Okay. See that X that's in there? All right. See the X in between the bones? See the X. Okay. Not only could you see it from the front, you got it in the back. Okay? It's making an X because remember, ligaments hold bone to bone. Okay? The anterior is letting you know which one that they tore. Think about this for a second. This major joint of the body, heavy joint, in the sac, you know, has the cavity and everything, and that's where they tore.
So it's not going to be holding the bone?
It's not going to be what?
Holding the bone though?
Right. There. Well, now the bone will still be, because you still got your posterior, okay?
Okay.
But this anterior, depending upon the amount of the tear, okay, because the tear would be based upon how much of this is severed, okay? So it can only be severed, it might just be severed a little bit, where just a minor amount, they just have to be, you know, maybe they just have to rest their knees, do certain exercises, but then again, it might be torn almost all the way through, okay, it depends. And what they do now is they graft material from another part of the body and come in and repair the band. Yeah. So, you know, it's really cool how it works. So we have to see, well, what's the strength and the location? Think about the knee, that's a pretty hefty joint. What is the location of the muscles? We go back to thinking about the knee. I've got my quads, I've got my biceps femoris, I have my, my tibialis. There's a huge amount of muscles keeping this in line, all right? But if I think about a finger, okay, not quite as much, all right? So muscles are going to play a part. Is there fluid in or around the joint? Sometimes the ones that have the cavities that encase them, fluid can build up, meaning fluid is around in those tissues, okay? What's the pain, all right? What's the pain level? Well, might start out where it's kind of minor. You do something and you just kind of are like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But then that joint might lock up on you, all right? I mean, it's different things that can happen. Also, what is the amount of use and disc use of that joint? A lot of you weren't in here when I was regaling about my exploits yesterday in my yard, okay? And woke up this morning and I was like, oh, hello, this is not going to be good, okay? Because I think every single joint of my body got used yesterday. It hurt when I went to lift up to do my hair, all right? I mean, it's like, okay, it's probably because I'm not using all of my joints enough. Why is it important to make sure that, I don't know, say if you're a runner, for example, that you do warm-ups? It's bringing fluid to the joint.
Oh, I was going to stretch your muscle.
I'm stretching which is warming them up. Okay, so you're thinking about the support that's around it. Okay, that's important because you're getting the blood flow to the muscles. Well, stretching them out to get them ready. Now, bringing fluid to the joint. Let me explain why that's important. Okay, one of the things that we've hopefully learned at this point, we've got cartilage in all of these joints. Okay, and when we do warm-ups, okay, cartilage didn't have a blood supply. No. Okay? It's dependent on other factors to keep it nourished. All right? And the more, the better you do a warm-up, you're bringing the blood flow to the tissues that are around that cartilage. And by doing that and doing those compressions, you get to push material, waste and stuff out of the cartilage. And when you're working and moving and stretching like this, and then you get to pull new stuff in. Actually, movement is wonderful for the joints. What happens as we age? My mobility is going to get decreased. What tends to happen for a lot of the people that occurs to? What type of lifestyle do they then begin to lead? The sedentary lifestyle. What would help them, Austin? Moving. If nothing else, get up and walk down the road and come back. All right? Movement's going to be your friend. Have y'all heard about how they claim all this city